Hello, Internet! Gino, that Pinguino Grieco here again with another episode of Deep Listens. I'm tired of saying that it's a very special episode, but this is also a special episode. I am joined by guests to talk about the Giantbomb Community Endurance Run and their involvement with it. I'm joined first and foremost by the man, the myth, the legend, the man who started this all of this gangster shit, JeffRud. Hello, Jeff.
Hi. You can do it Rud too if you'd like. JeffRud.
JeffRud.
Yeah, I'll answer to both though. Yeah, very.
And we are also joined by Sean, GoodSpaceGuy, Wagner.
Howdy, how's it going?
Good. Everything is going well. And so we are here to talk about the Giantbomb Community Endurance Run. If you're not familiar with it, it is a charity game-playing marathon that at this point is once a year. Sometimes it happens more than that. It really depends on the year and the whims of everyone. But this year we're going to be raising money from April 15th to 17th for Pencils of Promise, a charity that builds schools, trains teachers, and sends kids to school in developing nations. This is the third time? Second? How many times? This is our third, I think, time for Pencils of Promise. I think.
I want to say 3.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the third time. This is the second time we're using their actual site to do the fundraising. But I think the first time we used a different site for the fundraising purposes. But I think it's the third time we're actually donating to them.
Yeah, direct.
And we're using that. I guess, Jeff, you're the person who started this.
Correct.
Why don't you explain, how did you come to do the Giantbomb Community Endurance Run? Where'd you get the idea?
Well, so that's to unpack that. It's kind of a question about Giantbomb too, which I think, like a lot of people who are involved in the Giantbomb community writ large, I go way back to like the GameSpot days. So I was big on the Hotspot, the fucking kick-ass podcast that they were running in like the mid-aughts.
Not
basically.
To be confused with On the Spot, which is another show.
Yes, nor to be confused with GameStop, which is everyone's favorite retailer, or EB Games or Funko Land. But I was a big fan. I kept up with that site right up to the point where the Kane and Lynch fiasco went down, which dovetailed really nicely with starting to go to college. That was like my freshman year when that happened. So for the next 4 years, I was pretty much like a solid academic person. I think I beat like every Call of Duty when it came out, and that was about it. Just because my dorm mate at the time bought every one of them, so they were just available. I somehow got turned on to Giantbomb like right at the end of undergrad, and got pretty up the site's ass in a very short order, because I was like, oh my god, these people are still making really good shows and good content, and I'm bored off my ass anyway in grad school, so this is fantastic. So got involved in the site, got involved in the community, and that was like 2011, 2012 was kind of as Twitch seemed to be coming online. So I was tooling around with doing stuff on Twitch. Also living alone in grad school and being frankly bored and depressed, and saw it as kind of a weird
emotional outlet.
Yeah, but kind of as a masturbatory thing too. Like it was like doing nothing for anyone except the people streaming. So in like a wouldn't it be nice if style moment, I was just like, wouldn't it be nice if this had like a point? So I'm not going to take credit for the idea of streaming games on the internet to raise money for anything, because people have been doing that for a very long time, well prior to me having the idea. But I wanted a low-rent, low-key version of that people were not afraid to get involved with. So I pitched the idea on the forums, and I got half a dozen people, including Vosh 10 and Amlabella have been around for all of these. You came to the second one, I think. I don't remember when you got involved. It was like this.
So this is 6. So I got involved with 4.
4? Wow.
4, 5, and 6.
Damn.
Yeah.
I can't even remember a time when you weren't, because you've been friggin' instrumental to these things. But so the first one was held 2012. Or 2013.
I want to say 2013.
This is getting really fuzzy for me, so 2013 is probably right. I'll believe that. And it was a really small thing. We got Matt Roy to show up for about 2 hours it was sloppy. We were swapping the same Twitch key around to everyone on a single account. So one of us would finish, we'd pass off the key. The other person would use the key, get into OBS, and start their session. My idea being like, it's just one channel. People can go to one outlet. This was prior to us having the the framework that we've been borrowing from Chaser. Explosive runs. Which, man, that was a fucking game changer when we got access to that.
Yeah, just if you're a listener and you do not know of explosive runs, forum moderator Chaser, I believe 21, he created a framework that hosts multiple Twitch streams, mostly for Extra Life, to basically house all Giantbomb users' Twitch streams all in one place so that you could watch all of them and chat with a IRC chat. And so we use explosiveruns.com as our kind of home base because almost all of us have streamed for Extra Life also. So it's really convenient. Everyone's already set up for it. There's an IRC chat. Lunatics are already there. It's outstanding.
Yeah. It's a dangerous place to go when no events are happening, I'm sure, because I think that's a QuakeNet IRC that's probably just parked. So, that'd be dangerous. But, yeah, oddly enough, I've never done an Extra Life. And to be perfectly honest, as time has gone on, I've gotten more and more, I retired from grad school, let's put it, and I've transitioned to a full-time job working at a major American university that happens to be in Seattle. So, that cuts down your options pretty quick. So my leisure time and the things that I've found myself doing in my leisure time have become different. My priorities have kind of changed, and I don't really stream at all anymore. It's kind of become something that I come back to now, I guess, every year, and get it all out of my system over the course of about 3 days, I think.
So it's a streaming binge at this point for you?
Yes, it's a streaming binge, and I've made some cool. I like to think that you're a friend, but smiley. But I've met some really great people through this, and I feel like I have took something that seems very insular and kind of, fucking jerk off motion, and turned it for some people into a good thing, a way to give back, a way to be productive, I guess, turning it into productive time. So yeah, it's been a pleasant experience.
Yeah, and I agree. As someone who got into it a little bit later, it changed. I haven't streamed outside of this context really because it was such a positive experience that I wouldn't want to stream in another context really. Mm-hmm. Like not having this larger purpose and this group of people who are watching because they want this event to succeed, it's just so much more rewarding for me than the 2 or 3 times I've streamed and it's just, hey, maybe there's 10, 15 people watching, 1, 2 people chatting and asking me questions about the game. I'd rather have them asking about hey, what is this lunatic event that's happening? Why is there a person playing a game with their feet?
Yeah.
And being in contact with everyone. It's like this big, huge community event.
And even for selfish purposes, it's good for that because it's what if your audience was also the audience for people showing up watching someone do a, foot Super Meat Boy run? Get yourself exposed a little bit because there's some it's a weird thing to be good at. I will grant you, but I think some people are talented at playing video games on the internet for an audience. I think I'm very, very, very much not one of them, but I've seen it done. There are people who do this very well, but maybe they don't have the exposure. So I was like, what if this could be a vehicle to, what if we could make a star? I don't get any credit
launch somebody's career, so to speak.
Yeah. What if we find the next PewDiePie or whatever, which I don't know if I want that, but apparently a lot of people do if you look at his numbers.
That's a dark deal.
If
we found the next PewDiePie.
Yeah. But, it's been good times. And, this dovetails neatly with Mr. Wagner over here because I've known this son of a bitch for 9 years now.
Oh, man, it's really been that long, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. in meat space, no less. I've had to deal with
Yes, we know each other IRL, so to speak.
Gasp.
Right?
The real world. It's so scary out there.
I remember, too, the first GBCR. I remember it's just because I think I had been coming over to your place for a while because we'd do trivia night over where Jeff lived.
Mm-hmm.
And like he just turns to me I believe it was Wednesday, and he just goes, "So I'm doing this stream. I'm doing a charity stream." And I'm like, "Oh, really now?" And so I'm like, "Well, hey, maybe you want somebody sitting there in the room with you. Maybe make it go by a little bit faster if you're not just alone." And that's kind of how I wormed my way into this thing. But it's funny because we actually attempted we experimented with this before the actual first Giantbomb Community Run too. We actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but we still have a YouTube channel with our first attempts at streaming buried somewhere up on that website.
Yeah.
But we played some real esoteric stuff on that thing.
Yeah,
So.
it was sort of, oh God, it was that Gettysburg Armored Warfare. And,
what?
Yeah.
That's a real thing that exists?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So how that came to be, where the hell was this? I think this was on Reddit. I'm a big Redditor. I've been using Reddit for years. Who doesn't? I just solicited people for bad games. I just said, I would like you to give me garbage that you have sitting in your Steam account that no one's going to accept.
And Reddit people are happy to give you garbage.
Oh, yeah. So I got, oddly enough, I never got that Bad Rats or anything like that.
I have 3 copies of Bad Rats.
I should play it someday. I think the only thing I wound up getting from that, honestly, might have been this game called Gettysburg Armored Warfare. And it's this kind of not finished, kind of assy RTS thing. It feels like a very Dan Snyder kind of game. For those of you who've been around the Giantbomb community a little while, you know what I mean by that. It's just kind of broken and shit and boring. But I think we gave it the only video coverage it's ever going to get. So, though I did read reviews of it online, so I imagine someone else somewhere probably did some video of it.
Someone, at least 2 or 3 other people bought and played that game.
Apparently that people use SteamDB or whatever to look up actual usage information on games right now. So that would be an interesting one to look up. But yeah, what the hell was that called? It was Space Vikings.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Which is a name of a novel I like by H. Beam Piper. It's kind of a pulpy science fiction thing that I like quite a bit. So I shamelessly plugged that. But yeah, I feel like we played... It was Torment. It was Planescape Torment and Persona and maybe Renegade Ops or something for the first one.
Very cool. So you both have been in this since the beginning. So what types of games do you usually play on the Community Endurance Run, and what are some highlights from the deep past?
We usually play RPGs because you played Phantasy Star 2 that one time.
Yes, I did.
And then during the West Coast thing, we played Suikoden 2, which ended up being a lot of fun.
Yeah. Game's nonsense.
Yeah, we talked about that. I talked about that with Amlabella and Vash. You're welcome for having the squirrels in your party. You're welcome.
I mean, I was Team Animal. I was backing every animal. I wanted every critter that we got to be permanent party members because I want to make that game an experience. I don't know, I'm a pro animal guy. Yeah, I feel like this year that trend will probably continue, though the form of it isn't totally ironed out, I think. I don't know if this is going to happen, so I'll say this right now. I've been really thinking about buying and playing Final Fantasy XI until I actually pass out.
Okay, so that's great, because I've been coordinating with okay, so I don't want to spoil some events, but a moderator on Giant Bomb who played all of Final Fantasy VIII on a bet with me
who could
recently received every PC Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
All of
That's
them.
a lot of Final Fantasy.
All of them.
That's so that is ugh.
Oh,
God.
brutal.
And there's those really assy ports of stuff too.
All of them.
Yeah.
So he may or may not be playing Final Fantasy XI at some point. Who's to say?
It's an idea, and I would do it. However, I know someone who lives within 50 miles of me right now, who inexplicably bought the 10 and 10-2 collection.
Yes.
Yeah, see? So this is going to be the first year where I think instead of me just glomming onto somebody else's stream, I roll it my own this time. So the idea is have Jeff over at my place, and we'd stream ourselves trying to beat Final Fantasy X, the HD thing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I've had very little experience with this game in the past, so aside from the first section of the game, a lot of it is going to be very new to me.
Okay, so you have not played 10 proper. You have never played the original 10.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, you should just do 10-2. Just go straight into it.
Oh, really?
Well, because I've played 10 right up to the final boss fight, and like with my housemate Ashley, who the internet might know better as Beth XXX, who was on one of the streams with me, and another friend of ours. We've got to save right at the final fight with the terrible blonde dudes, like a shitty dad.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, and everyone's like a ghost dad in that game. Like it's basically fucking Final Fantasy X is a train wreck.
I wrote a 10-page essay about Titus's shitty dad.
I need to.
See, I love train wrecks. That's part of why I picked this game, because my little experience with it before and just having heard from it, I'm like, yeah, this is a good game where I can just sit here and just take the piss while I'm playing this thing.
Yeah,
well, the thing is, 10 and 10-2 are both train wrecks in their own special way, but 10-2 is just so much more glorious in its train wreckishness. 10, it's just up its own ass in some ways, and your dad is a space whale.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. But 10-2, all of a sudden, the savior of the world is in a girl pop band.
But you see, that's way
and she's got guns.
For 10 takes itself so goddamn seriously, and people hold it up as this incredible accomplishment or whatever of the genre, and it's finally they let us out of the darkness, and Final Fantasy IX is this fucking kiddie thing, and finally they made a game for adults. So 10-2 being this ridiculous fucking chick trick femme pop girl going around on a spaceship and putting sexy and fun little costumes on, that's great. That's what I want from video games now. The world is too serious for me to give a shit. Though I am playing Final Fantasy VI again right now with a friend. But I don't know. There needs to be some levity. So 10-2 is way more appealing to me as someone who's played now basically all of 10 twice in my life.
Have you played 10-2?
I've played the first half hour of it, and it was with some people who were not having it, but I got to go back to it.
Those are the best kind of people to play 10-2 with.
Oh, yeah. Man. So hearing you guys talk about this, I'm wondering, because I wanted to play 10 because it's got Bruce Willis in it.
It does?
But it sounds like 10-2 might be good for just insanity. In which case, I think that might be the one to go with.
10-2 is the most insane.
Yeah.
It is the most insane that it ever gets. 5 is pretty insane in some spots, but nothing is as insane. There's a concert in the middle of 10-2. Now, to be fair, 8 has a concert in it as well. But
yes,
10-2, it has a live voiced concert in beautiful CG. This is post The Spirits Within. They've just got an animation studio with nothing but time. And they made this amazing, fully voiced, choreographed thing. It's so good. There's 2 choreographed dance performances. Actually, there might be a third at the end of the game. I forget, because it's such a fever dream.
It's the more I think about 10-2, I play a lot of JRPGs. I've slowly gotten away from them as time has gone past. But I used to be just way up there on ass. The first video game I played Super Mario Brothers in 1990 something. My parents got me an NES when I was very small. But we had a babysitter at some point when I was growing up leave a complete boxed with instructions copy of Phantasy Star 2 at my house.
Oh no. The Dark Seed.
Yeah, my first real strong memories of a video game being fucking blown out and crazy are Phantasy Star 2, and I never got more than like an hour into it because, you know, I was like, how do I finish a level? And it's like, well, there's no level. Like, I don't know. I didn't understand it was a JRPG, basically. I didn't like the first JRPG I remember beating was basically Paper Mario, and even then I didn't realize what I was really playing. I was just like, oh, this is a different mode of game. This is an interesting way to, you know, have combat and these things happen in a game world. But yeah, so Phantasy Star 2 is something I have very visceral kind of base memories of. So playing that as an endurance run thing was good and bad. For me, good because it's like, oh, it's a nostalgia trip, and I get to defend Sega and be totally irrational and be like Jeff Gerstmann, and it's wonderful. And bad because it was Phantasy Star 2, unfortunately. And that game is pretty raw. Yeah, going back to 1988 mechanics and what was acceptable in the genre 20 plus years ago now, I guess 27 years. That game is as old as me, so it's a little rough. Just little shit like, man, I wish there was a run button because getting anywhere is just the assiest thing in the universe. And yeah, fucking Dark Seed, the penultimate boss of that game I've still not beaten. My save file is sitting on this PC. I should boot it up someday and actually finish it. But
not to mention that dungeon design where everything is just teleportation panels.
Yeah.
And you got to bail in the middle of like a dungeon. You're like, I need to go back and get supplies. And you're like, I don't remember how to get out of this damn place.
Yeah. Well, and it's like a thing that so I wound up reading a bunch of guide shit. And apparently I need to go add the thief character to my party, go into a specific building, and randomly hit the like steel button or whatever, and eventually you'll get drops for this like hella good potion that is damn near mandatory to beat that boss. And I just could be fucked to go do that. I just can't. Someday maybe when I finish all the rest of my Steam library, which I'm sitting at 255 games and I've got 20% of it beaten, when I'm really, 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 really fucked for things to do, I'll sit down and do that.
So we do definitely have a Final Fantasy lean on this event, it would seem. Between me and you, at least.
Yeah.
I've done 8 and 9 at this point. This year, I don't think I'm going to do a Final Fantasy. Oh, no, that's not true. I'm playing Crystal Chronicles.
You just said.
I'm playing Crystal Chronicles, and I'm playing Chocobo Racing, though that doesn't count.
Those aren't real games, man. Those, they ruin... Whatever. Yeah.
My Chocobo goes so fast around those corners. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But at least this year, I'm not playing a friggin' 40-hour game in 15 hours. At least that's not happening.
Should get a Japanese cell phone and play that snowboarding game that got released over there.
Nope. Instead, I'm going to be playing Mass Effect. But like all of them.
Oh, Christ.
Oh, nice.
But like
I've got a real itch to play Mass Effect again for some reason. I've been playing a lot of The Witness, and I've just been in the mood for a game that doesn't take itself so damn seriously.
Oh, so Mass Effect?
Yeah. It's got... Well, Mass Effect because it knows when to kind of add in some minutes of levity, right? It's not, we're going to die all the time. It knows when to just kind of change the pace up a bit.
People laugh in that game occasionally.
Yeah. They included DLC that's all about partying at one point, and I'm like, yes, this is exactly what this game needed.
Yeah, my ex, she, when we were living together, she wound up playing that entire trilogy, just like chain lighting them off each other. Like
that is my plan.
Yeah,
I've practiced the first game at least once. I can beat it in like 3 to 4 hours.
What?
Then I want to carry forward that save into 2 and then into 3.
Are you just maining plot, basically?
Yeah, maining plot. I don't get Rex. I just don't get him.
How do you not? Is that even a skippable conversation?
No. You can just say, nope, can't come with me. But then I don't have to talk to him later.
Oh, man.
Yeah. She started playing through that game a second time, and spoilers for like a 10-year-old game, I guess, but she played it as a dick the second time through. And she got to that scene where she basically was like, to do this correctly, I got to whack Rex here. And that scene is fucked. and she put it down, and that was her end of trying to run through Mass Effect again as a prick. But man, when you ice Rex in that game, he gets fucking iced. Like ain't no question marks about that one.
I have not seen that. I have seen for this because at halfway through Mass Effect, you eventually have to go to Feros, and then you have to deal with a bunch of stupid colonists, and you have to either incapacitate them with grenades or kill them.
Yeah.
Or I guess you can ignore them, but you don't get any Paragon or Renegade for doing that. So the right thing to do is to kill them because it's faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, I remember that part.
I managed to get through that without killing anyone.
I've done it. That's not the way to do it fast.
Yeah, I had to save scum my way through that part. Good God.
I've beaten the first two, and I'm at the third one, and I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with that, because I feel like I want to go dark in the third one, but I'm so Paragon at this point. But I'm like, what if my Shepard just became super jaded after the events of Mass Effect 2, and just was like, fuck the world, you guys can deal with your shit this way.
No, instead of working out this conflict, just go to war with each other, because who cares?
Yeah. I remember now, because Tali died, because I made one bad decision. She's the only one that died, and she's the only character I wanted to have live, and I could go back and very easily make her live, but I kind of want to just burn the world down instead.
Great. Then you should pick the red ending of Mass Effect 3, and then you'll have what you want.
The red ending... I read all the indoctrination shit. You want to pick the blue ending.
No. Pick the red ending and then blow the world up. Burn it down.
But the blue ending...
You don't burn it all down, though.
Isn't that?
No, red ending is you blow up everything. Blue ending is you take control of everything.
But then I could be Space God.
You could be Space God, but you said you just wanted to burn the whole world down. So pick the one
But Space God could burn infinite worlds down. Like, why start with one?
That's a fair point.
I mean, if you were Space God... let's get stressed out about Andromeda here for about 30 seconds. Are we all stressed out about Andromeda?
Nah.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
I don't trust BioWare anymore, so
cool.
I can't be stressed out about it.
Good to hear.
I still have Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, and they'll always exist, just like I still have Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't have to care about 13, 14, 15, whatever. The old ones still exist.
So speaking of Final Fantasy 13, you guys seen how they have that Louis Vuitton deal going on with Lightning from 13, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So I've seen that ad in the wild now, like, because on my bus route into work, I passed by a Louis Vuitton, or however you say that, and there she was, advertised right, like in a big old poster right on the side of the store. I'm like, holy crap, it's real. It's not just an internet thing.
It's the moment that Hatsune Miku was on David Letterman or whatever, like these fucking digital people. It seems like there was some shit with Spirits Within that was pretty, like, there was like a Maxim spread or something with that character from Spirits Within that was like, she's like a real people. And it's like, no, this, I don't...
Yeah,
I'm not ready for digital people to be treated like real people yet.
I don't know how I feel. Actually, I do know how I feel that Tetsuya Nomura his style is so high fashion that at this point, actual fashion designers are like, "Hey, your character would look good with a Louis Vuitton bag, right? That'd fit right in." I just miss Amano's design so much.
Yeah, same.
But what can you do?
Can't start talking about Tetsuya Nomura.
I think the point where everybody starts wearing, like, just covered in belt buckles in the real world is a point where I just say, I give up. I'm done.
Japan. Go to Japan.
I'm out of here. I'm just going to burrow underground or something.
Sean comes out of the ground and he sees 6 belt buckles, and that means that there's 12 more weeks of Final Fantasy.
yeah, pretty much.
Why are there belt buckles on your sleeve? What are you even buckling?
Why? What's the point? That's got to take forever to get dressed in the morning when you got to do up all those buckles.
Oh no. Or hey, if you play Final Fantasy X, you will meet the woman whose dress is made entirely of belts.
So,
but she's in 10 too also, so it's really up to you.
The Beth XXX, my friend Ashley, I don't want to get into too many details here, but she's had plans for years to make that dress. And
really?
at one point
That's
was
awesome.
collecting belts. to.
That's a great way to start
happen.
making that dress.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So, you guys have been here since the beginning. One event that I remember particularly fondly from my first community endurance run was your artist rendition of My Immortal.
For fuck's sake.
Why don't you explain what that is and why you chose to read excerpts from it? Excerpts from the scripture. As donation rewards or threats?
Yeah. So I like to incentivize. It's good to take a break from whatever you're doing for a number of reasons. Mostly because sanity. I think doing the same action file will make you nuts. So go throw shit at a wall. So I got into doing Mad Libs for a while. I think that was a tested.com thing I stole at some point because I seem to remember them doing Mad Libs or talking about them. And the person I was involved with at the time was a big Harry Potter fan, which I'm not. And she mentioned the existence of so the internet's got a lot of fan fiction on it. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Some people draw things, but some people write stuff. And she was like, you should check this out. It's the worst fan fiction ever. And I was like, well, you know what you're talking about because you trucking this shit, being from the Tumblr and all that.
Oh, no.
And I discovered My Immortal, which is worth looking up. It's incredible. I feel like the person who wrote it was probably of high school age, let's say, probably no more than 16 years old.
Either that or channeling a high schooler.
That's an optimistic read on it. So maybe they were channeling it. That you might be right.
There's a level of artistry there.
I think that would be giving too much credit, like too self-aware for this fan fiction to actually exist, because I can't imagine and that doesn't suggest that somebody actually realized how fan fiction it was becoming. If they were self-aware enough to do that, I don't know. I feel like that would open up a black hole or something.
I just want to give them the benefit of the doubt. So why don't you explain what makes My Immortal so breathtaking?
So it's a character that's been inserted into the Harry Potter universe. Let's see. Ron Weasley has been renamed... Oh, God. Some variant of Dracula or vampire.
Everyone
is renamed
Everyone's
Dracula.
been given an edgier name.
It's not Dracula backwards, is it? Because I'm not falling for that again.
There's a... Oh, God. The sex scene.
Isn't there, like, all sex scenes? I swear there's more than one.
So, it is a Harry Potter / vampire fan fiction where a character, I mean, this I think is an actual just a Mary Sue character is injected in who's just like, hey, I have all the powers and I'm a vampire and I'm magic, but I'm also in love with everyone and everyone loves me. It's crazy. Love quadrangles. This is a love pentagon because it's the devil, because vampires.
So this is worth Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is very brief, and it's worth sharing with you guys just as an excerpt. I want to be very clear. I don't endorse this product. I didn't write it. I have no ownership of it. It's very easy to look up. Yes, for free online. This is the audiobook version of Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Note from the author. Author's note. I said, stop flaming, okay? Ebony's name is Ennaby, not Mary Sue, okay? Draco is so in love with her. Dad is acting different. They knew each other before, okay? That's the author's note. Draco, I shouted, what the fuck do you think you are doing? Draco didn't answer, but he stopped the flying car and he walked out of it. I walked out of it too, curiously. What the fucking hell? I asked angrily. Ebony? He asked. What? I snapped. Draco leaned in extra close and I looked into his gothic red eyes, brackets, he was wearing color contacts, close brackets, which revealed so much depressing sorrow and evilness, and then suddenly I didn't feel mad anymore. And then, suddenly, just as Draco kissed me passionately. Draco climbed on top of me, and we started to make out keenly against a tree. He took off my top, and I took off his clothes. I didn't even took off my bra. Excuse me. Then he
get your grammar right.
Then he put his thingy into my you-know-what, and we did it for the first time. Oh, I screamed. I was beginning to get an orgasm. We started to kiss everywhere, and my pale body became warm. And then, what the hell are you doing, you motherfuckers? It was Dumbledore.
Oh no, not Dumbledore.
Guys, go
You
read
can stop
this.
there. Please stop there.
I am.
This is the hottest thing I've ever heard.
I know. It's incredible. It's only 35 chapters long. It's worth looking at. If you like bad. If you don't like bad, you should look up this thing as well because you probably like Harry Potter. And I would like to hurt your childhood memories of Harry Potter.
Statistically speaking, you probably like Harry Potter.
Yeah. You're
If
about
listening to the show.
Yeah. There's a Venn diagram of these interest groups that is pretty well overlapped, I fear.
Yes. And so as I was playing for my first event, I would just occasionally just hear this over Skype chat or over some sort of chat. Just these readings that as I was playing through Final Fantasy VIII just blew my mind. Oh, it's so bad. The grammar's so bad. What does keenly lean up against a tree even mean?
I'm not entirely sure, but I would like to find out.
One day, I'll keenly lean up against a tree. One day.
This is why we have thesauruses. The thesauri, or however you pluralize that.
God damn it.
Yeah, so that was one of the highlights from one of our earlier events.
Yeah. There was an informal poll to make me wear a mesh tank top at some point, which I've done online somewhere. There's probably really steamy footage of me exhausted in a red mesh tank top playing, I think, Phantasy Star 2. I think that was all one event.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Still haven't scoured that image out of my mind yet.
It's not so bad. Yeah, it's been fun. I am looking forward to whatever JRPG nonsense goes on this very next event. But the highlight of this whole thing for me, the one that sticks out the most by far is the aforementioned Metal Gear Solid 3 Final Fantasy VIII race that happened. Just like as it was going on and how it ended, how weirdly similar those two things wound up being, and how damn near simultaneously they wound up terminating. It was nuts being there for that, for this inexplicable, very stupid thing that is impossible to explain to anyone outside of this dumb video game universe. It was a magical moment.
Yeah, we discussed it in depth in the podcast with Vash and Amlabella, but that moment when it became very clear that it was a real race, that it could be a race. When I started Final Fantasy VIII, I think much earlier in the day, Final Fantasy VIII is a much longer game than Metal Gear Solid 3, but because Amlabella had not practiced it, and I had practiced 8 a whole lot, it became feasible that I could beat that game faster. And I'm like, I'm just doing this. This is happening. Screw Metal Gear Solid 3. That game's dumb. I'm going to do this, and then I got stuck on the final boss, and it was a whole big thing, and thankfully, Hideo Kojima, turns out, is the most indulgent.
Oh, Lord, yeah. I think that's why he's so damn endearing.
Yep, he refuses to compromise on anything, even though he should. He should so often. But hey, what can you do? So, what are you guys planning for this year?
Well, I think it's like we've been discussing earlier, Final Fantasy X. Yep, probably 10-2 at this point, as much as I want to have the one with Bruce Willis in it. You guys convinced me. That's the way to go.
All right, cool. So, if I remember correctly, we've moved like a few different charities. If I remember correctly, after Ryan Davis passed away, you guys did the American Asthma Association?
It was the American Sleep Apnea Association. Okay. That was an interesting arrangement that wound up happening. They had a personnel shift. So Ryan Davis passed away, and it was determined that sleep apnea was a potential complicating factor in that. And I was like, that seems like a very curable, treatable thing. And it is. It's a very treatable thing. There's a little bit of expense involved, though. There's an organization called the American Sleep Apnea Association, and I got in contact with what wound up being the head of that organization, saying, So we're weirdos from the internet, and we run this kind of foul-mouthed, blue-languaged thing, but we'd be interested in raising money for you guys. And this individual was like, sure, that sounds great. Cool. But keep me in the loop. And I was like, all right. We did some more planning. I came back and was like, hey, email address. So this is what we put together. And the person who responded to that was very different. They had a change in directorship, and there was no handoff of this thing that was going on. So we worked around it, and we wound up coming up with a mechanism using, Fundly.
Fundly, I think.
Which is a third-party app for collecting money, to collect money, and then we wound up making a donation to them through that. So we wound up raising enough money to fund several CPAP machines, which are these breathing masks that people wear that have got, sleep apnea-related sleep issues. That was good. The first one went to Child's Play, and I think the second one wound up doing that as well, because it was very easy to set up. They wound up getting a lot of attention, so I was like very, even at the time, felt not bad doing it, but like they have so much attention on them already. I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if we could branch out and maybe hit some less public-facing charities with this thing, which is why it was really good to fundraise on behalf of Pencils of Promise the first time. And that seems like it's been a very, very, very good partnership, I feel like, through, frankly, your girlfriend, who's kind of made that role for us in some really cool ways over the years.
Yeah, and the reason why we ultimately went with Pencils of Promise the first time was this is a very international website and an international community. And so we had some people who were streaming in other countries, and does Child's Play? That might be international. But
there are a couple hospitals. At the time we were doing it, they sponsored some hospitals in the United Kingdom and Egypt. I think those were the two other countries. They might do more now. But
the American Sleep Apnea Association, that's American-centric. And
yes.
So we wanted to do something that was an international charity with international impact. And Pencils of Promise, thankfully, hits several different countries and different continents. So it felt like a good place to go. And also their donations, any money you donate there, 100% of it goes towards their causes. They pay for their institutional costs through gala events and fundraisers that they run internally. So we don't have to worry about, like, hey, only 70% of the money actually went to where we wanted it to go. When we say we raised this much for this many things, or, this many kids got scholarships, we actually have some certainty that that's how many kids got scholarships, which I think is pretty unique. And it was pretty easy to set up a site, too, to help fundraise.
It's been great. I like the organization. I mean, I've been working in education-related fields now for about a decade, so it's a cause that's kind of near and dear to my greasy little heart. And I've been very impressed with the way that organization claims to be run, and it's honestly a pretty big incentive for me to do this every year, to know that the money that is being raised for this is going to a cool thing. I've even donated some money to this event, in fact, because I feel so good about it.
Mm-hmm. Glad to hear it. So this year's going to be interesting. I think that we've got a lot of cool stuff planned out. I think that we've got a lot more people involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like this year, I think we've settled on a goal of $4,000. Last year we hit $3,000. This year, hopefully, if momentum keeps building, we can hit 4 or even get higher. But I think that we've gotten a good groove of mixing raffles with just regular donation incentives for ridiculous things. Like, what's your favorite donation incentive that we've done in the past?
Oh, God. Mad Libs. I love Mad Libs. They're so great. You bang them out quickly. It gets a crowd involved a little bit. It's a nice diversion. 100% got to be Mad Libs.
Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to say the Mad Libs thing too, especially because we can get chat involved with that. Any game that gives us an opportunity to involve chat is always fun too.
Yeah, shared play is fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed. I think so. With 8, I had donate. So 9, when I played 9, there were some donation incentives for naming, and we talked about that in the last podcast. I enjoyed that because little Kim Aiko's name was Little Kim, which was great. But in 8, I kind of had like a donation bar that once we hit certain goals as a fundraiser, I would do additional things in Final Fantasy 8. And I think the top thing was like beat Omega Weapon, which is the hardest thing to do in that entire game.
Yeah.
And, it purports that it's the hardest thing to do.
It's a thing that I've avoided doing in Final Fantasy VIII so far.
Yeah, so I'm like, I had this weird situation where I was like, if we raise enough money, I'm going to have to just bang my head against this stupid monster over and over and over again. And I'm so close to being done. And the sun's down. I started when it wasn't up. So please don't. Like, if we could hit it, can we hit it tomorrow? We could hit it tomorrow. Come on. And so I did not have to beat Omega Weapon that time. And I also, same thing with Final Fantasy IX, I had a donation incentive that was like, beat the Chocobo side quest. Which, if you've never done that in 9, like, it is completely incongruous with finishing 9 in a quick fashion. Like, you can't... What I would have had to have done was get Excalibur 2, because I needed it, and then back out of the final dungeon, go do the entire Chocobo side quest, and then come back and beat the final boss.
Really
after,
good
like, 3 or 4
time-saving
hours.
tip, basically.
Yes,
Hey,
that was...
You needed a sword to beat the Chocobo side quest?
No, I needed a sword to beat the final boss.
Oh.
Without Excalibur 2, I wouldn't have been able to do enough damage to beat the final boss. But you need to beat the game, or get to the end of the game in 12 hours to get Excalibur 2. And so, stopping to do anything else other than get that sword will ruin your time.
Wow, that is brutal.
Yeah, I got it with 30 seconds to spare.
Jesus Christ.
It was... Ugh. I've done that run twice now, and both times I've had less than a minute left getting that stupid sword. Every second counts.
You're a patient man.
Yeah, I don't know if I could actually like sit down. If I were to play a game and then I was told that was the requisite to get that weapon, I'd like, I think I'm gonna go play something else. I don't want to deal with this. Don't want to deal with a game that's gonna make me go through that. And it's not like I'd be like, oh, I don't have to get the weapon, because then I'm sitting like, oh, I could have gotten the best weapon if only I wasn't so afraid to try.
Yes, and the problem is just that. Well, honestly, I never did it successfully until I did it on camera. Because
nice.
Practicing, that game is really long. Like, it's long to practice, and if you screw up at any point, it can be the thing that costs you your run. Like, the margins are so razor thin that you could just be like, well, I got stuck on a boss for a little bit too long, and it took an extra 5 minutes, and so now that 5 minutes is going to kick my ass 12 hours, 10 hours down the line, and I'm not going to get this stupid sword. Or you could, like, I made a mistake on one of my purchases on my actual run, and what happened was I had to double back. That cost me like 20 minutes, and up until that point I was feeling really good. I'm like, I'm going to get this, I'm hitting it, everything's on time, and then, oh crap, I have no time left, I might not do this. And it was like 3 or 4 hours before I would have found out if I had screwed myself.
Jesus.
But yeah, it took me, I think I practice ran it to some degree, like 4 or 5 times, to get to the point where I was comfortable enough. And the morning before the actual speed run for the endurance run, I practiced beating the final boss, or trying to beat the final boss, and I didn't successfully do it.
Well, man, I would have a hard time just playing an RPG just once through like that. The fact that you practiced it that many times is mind-blowing to me.
It's an impressive thing, man.
Like, at least I'm not the speedrunner who figured the game out. I just mostly followed runners who, like, the people who do, I think it was Awesome Games Done Quick, or Summer Games. It might have been Summer Games a couple years ago. 2 guys, Poexel and Spike Vegeta, ran Final Fantasy IX using, I think, the strategies that Essentia came up with. And they showcased a bunch of this stuff and explained a lot of the mechanics. So I took notes, furious notes on their run, and then tried to replicate it. And I was a lot slower than them. I'm sure they have even more practice than I do. They have to. They killed it when they did it. But it was a cool experience to have, just going through and looking at a game that way. Especially, it's 40 hours. Like, I don't have the time to even play it if I'm not playing it in that context anymore.
Yeah. That's, like, I don't know, the thing that streaming has really opened up to me is, like, there's all these different ways to play games. So, like when I play JRPGs, I'm very methodical, and I like to take my time and go through and fucking talk to every NPC, which is like I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles X right now, and it's just terrible for that because there's so much shit. It's great and I love it, but it's like going to occupy a significant amount of time. But I imagine even now there's some fucking secret sauce people have sprinkled on that game to just blow it wide open. I mean, you could already do that, I suppose, if you just mained the story. There are some locks on the progress in that game, but I imagine there's an optimum path. And, I mean, just for argument's sake, if I go to How Long to Beat right now and search Xenoblade, we have a fastest run on here of
70 hours.
I see a main story one that's 50, which is nuts considering that, like, that's like a 300-hour long game if you want to really fuck around in it. I see a leisure one for 256.
That's horrifying. I can't even imagine having 250 hours to play one game.
But, like, there's got to be some optimum path through that, and I'm excited to see people break stuff, basically. The fun thing's been watching people find how these games are actually kind of busted and blowing them open in ways that developers probably never intended. And seeing developers even react to it sometimes kind of viscerally, like, how dare you play this in a way I didn't intend you to play it. And it's like, well, it's a performance art. Like, you've given me this thing and I get to reinterpret it now. It's a conversation that developers accidentally wind up having with people playing their games, and it's fascinating.
9, the thing that broke 9 open for me was when I realized that if you stutter step on the world map, you don't run into random battles, because the step counter that determines whether you get a random encounter or not, it is set. It starts counting when you start moving, and it resets when you stop. So if you're just hitting up, just like counting on the button, tapping it, you're never walking for such a long period of time that the step counter will get to random encounter level very often.
So they probably have some condition where it's like one step will never trigger a random encounter. So as long as
it can, but it's very, very unlikely. If you're doing if you're actually like hammering the button properly, it's very unlikely. You can get kind of sloppy, and then that can be a problem where you hold it down for longer than you intend to.
Sure.
And I did that a few times in practice. I think I ran into 1 or 2 random encounters when the show actually happened.
I wound up looking at
Oh no! The other thing was I watched a speed run of Psychonauts, where it turns out that levitation, if you play that game on a PC, the levitation bubble has a slight upward momentum when you use it. And because you can run at 60 frames a second or higher than 60 frames a second on a PC now, you can actually get inputs in fast enough to make that upward momentum make you fly.
That's my favorite kind of speed run, is when they document all the glitches and exploits where they've got such a technical knowledge of the game that they can use these glitches to skip entire chunks of the game. And I'm always fascinated watching and listening to the commentary on these things from a very technical perspective. It's interesting to see how much they can just blow apart a game on a technical level just by playing it and sort of reverse engineering it from the player's perspective. And I always have a lot of respect for that.
I wound up looking up at some point the actual math that determined the random encounter rates in Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy II for the Famicom. And it's just like a random number generator between it's like 1 and 60, like some 64-bit interval. So it's 64 or like 256. So like the maximum number of steps you could take in, I think, Final Fantasy or Final Fantasy II without having an encounter was 255 steps. It was guaranteed to be some threshold below that you would just absolutely trigger an encounter. And I think the tweak that was made in 2 was they set the starting number to be different every time, so it didn't begin at 0. It would start you at, say, 67, and then start integrating up. I forget exactly, like, the math end of it's crazy. I would like to see what the math is behind something like Final Fantasy IX, if that's been dumped.
What I heard was it's a random seed for what the initial step counter is.
Yeah.
And so that's why occasionally you'll get a random encounter just because you get a seed that's just super high.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the threshold is. I bet it's not that high because the encounter rate in that game is very, very high.
Sure. Well, and then you play those
usually.
fucking like Famicom ones, and it's just nuts. Like even going back, so I'm playing Final Fantasy VI on the SNES with Ashley right now, and it's nuts. Like playing that compared to something like, I don't know, like the most recent JRPG I played was like Breath of Death 7 or something. So like that's got a much more manageable encounter rate, and then you can in fact just spawn battles to the point where they stop happening just through the menu.
Which is very smart.
Yeah, those games are way better than they have any right to be.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, you also played Pokemon Snap at one point, and I remember like a Pikachu hoodie or something.
That would have been my ex at the time. But yeah, we definitely played through all of Pokemon Snap. It was funny, over New Year's I wound up doing that at a cabin out on the shore with some people too. Like there was a N64 sitting in... No, it wasn't. That was the Wii version. We played the fucking Wii version of Pokemon Snap. And this house didn't have the Wii sensor in it. So a drunk person was like, "There's Pokemon Snap on this Wii. How do we get it to go?" And I was like, "Well, the Wiimote won't work." But we had some candles sitting in there. Or there were candles, there were LED lights somewhere. So we wound up pointing this Wiimote around the house at these fucking lights on the other side of a room, navigating the fucking screen to get Pokemon Snap to launch. And then these guys were like stoned Smash Bros. So we plugged in one of their Wii Classic controllers into the thing and fucking played through all of Pokemon Snap in the 20 minutes it takes. Because that game is like an hour.
We did a podcast
the miracle
on it.
of drunk engineering.
People are allowed to like Pokemon Snap, I guess. People are allowed to like Pokemon.
We actually managed to do a 2-hour podcast on that game. That game doesn't take 2 hours to beat.
Yeah. How? What's there to talk about? I got a really good picture of Pikachu. I probably should.
You should tune into our episode. Okay, it was episode past episode 18, Pokemon Snap and Poor Blockbuster Decisions, and part 2, Pokemon Snap, franchise loyalty and nostalgia.
The best part about that game was arguing with the Professor Oak algorithm for scoring your photos and saying, "Hey, what? Only 600 points? Bullshit. That's at least 800 and 900 easily."
The
You're
best
a liar, Professor
part of
Oak.
that game was going to a Blockbuster with the cartridge that you owned and getting your really dope Jigglypuff picture made into stickers.
Well, you'll enjoy our episode if you want to hear stories about dope Jigglypuff pictures.
Like, I was not into Pokemon growing up, but I definitely had Pokemon Snap and got it relatively new. So that was like a $60 fucking game that you could beat in like 2 hours. And then my parents, because they loved me and supported my interest, took me to a goddamn Blockbuster and let me print those fucking pictures out.
So that just forecasted modern game pricing and game design. That's all it did.
I mean, whatever. I remember buying WWF No Mercy for $60 brand new because I was way into wrestling at the time and fell out in a big way and got back in relatively lately. But yeah, games were $60 in 2000. That was normal. Or cartridge games were in any case.
Okay, so back to the community endurance run. Just based on the stuff that we know is happening this year, what has got you most excited about the ideas that are getting floated out there?
I don't know, it's like you throw enough Final Fantasy related things at me and my ears are going to perk up just a little bit, if begrudgingly at this point in my life. Again, like the time I sit here, as I say, I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles X, but like the time I devote to this hobby has changed and my priorities have changed quite a bit. I like getting in and playing a quick experience. Firewatch sounds kind of interesting to me, but like the stuff I've working through like on my PC right now, like I'm playing through Gish and fucking A Bird's Tale. Like I'm trying to get through all this old like little humble indie bundle stuff I've accumulated over the years. I like brief experiences that I can have and be finished with and then, go outside, for instance, or go to my job. But once a year I've got it in me to have a real fucking have it out with a bunch of JRPG stuff. So this event remains in my wheelhouse for that and other reasons. Also, it's just nice to do shit with friends I've made over the years. Vosh 10 is a pretty cool dude. Amabella is a pretty cool dude. Gino the Pinguino, the man who's doing this interview, he seems okay.
Yeah!
I won't
I'll
vouch for Sean, but...
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm a real criminal.
Proper friggin' panty-swiping jerk. No.
Showed up at Vash's place so I could eat all his food and make a mess of everything.
I don't know. Having fun with friends. Keeping it very simple. I'm a man of simple likes and needs.
All right. Well, on that note, I don't know if there's anything else to announce at this point. You should definitely keep tuning in. We're going to keep doing some of these interviews to let you know the participants of the Community Endurance Run leading up to the event. Again, that's going to be on April 15th to 17th. And we're going to be raising money for Pencils of Promise. You should tune in. Will hopefully be a little bit easier to find on Giantbomb leading up to this event. And we should be giving updates at least a month in advance of what kind of events are happening, when they're happening, what kind of prizes we might be raffling off, all that kind of good information. So keep your eyes and ears out there. We're probably going to use hashtag GBCER6 or something like that, or hashtag GBCER like we did last time.
Yeah, that's been a pretty good hashtag over the years, which is a strange thing to say about this event, but it's true.
Yeah, it's an establishment at this point.
Yeah, I accidentally made an institution.
So thanks again, Jeff, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, and if you have any feedback for the show or feedback about the Community Endurance Run, if you want me to clarify anything, you can send any comments to @DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com, or you can just leave a comment on deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have comments for every podcast episode, so go ahead, send in your feedback. Thank you once again for listening.
Oh, can I do a plug?
Yes, of course. Everyone can do plugs.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, which I update maybe once every other month, you should find me at Electric Viking. On Steam, I'm Electric Viking 78 if you want to make me look bad at Rocket League. You can find me on the Facebook, which is where I do most of my shit. If you look for my event, group, thing, whatever, page, profile, the Ministry of Bad Advice, which is a government agency I run that gives out really good advice.
Outstanding. Sean, do you have any plugs?
No, I've started adding things to my page on Giantbomb, so if you ever want to, I'm making a promise to myself to start actually writing stuff down for a change. So if you're ever curious what dumbass idea I've got floating around my head, wander on over to my page. Maybe I'll have something up there for you. Other than that, I don't social media much, so that's pretty much it for me.
Okay, so that will be at GoodSpaceGuy on Giantbomb?
You got it.
I'm just JeffRud on Giantbomb, by the way, just RUD. So
Yep.
find me there.
All right, thank you once again. Thanks for listening, and peace!